Welcome everyone here to talk about errors inbox and resolving errors faster. And I am Adam Johnson. I'm the principal product manager of errors inbox at New Relic. Great to talk to you all today. A little bit of legalese that I need to show to you all, and then we'll hop right into it here. So today we're going to talk a little bit about what errors inbox is. I'm going to spend a lot of time on a demo, and we'll have time for Q&A as well. And just kind of want to make sure that everyone can hear me okay before I start rambling. So everything looks okay. Yep, okay, perfect. All right, cool. So I'll just start by saying that error tracking is essentially for developers. A lot of different personas can get value in it, such as operators, DevOps SREs, but really developers are the ones who are responsible for the code that they ship more and more often. And error tracking really is the tool that's there to help you identify as soon as possible when you've pushed code, there's new problems, there's new errors that have emerged, and help you to figure out the blast radius of those errors. Is there how many users are impacted, or what's the effect of this error? Some errors are going to be expected and fine and just part of the system as it operates, as it's been designed to be resilient. Some are there and causing negative experiences for your customers, and you want to be able to find out about those hopefully before you push to prod. So that's really the whole concept behind error tracking. And really, like, one of the things that we set out to solve with New Relic's error tracking solution, Errors Inbox, is the removal of context switching. Context switching in developers' lives is just a huge productivity killer. It's just a pain. And when it comes to error tracking and debugging errors, there is a lot of context switching involved. You start by using maybe an error tracking point solution that alerts you when you have a new error. Then you have to triage it. And next you have to figure out, okay, what's the problem here? What's the root cause? When did it start happening? And in order to do that, you may be going from the stack trace in the error tracking solution, going to your GitHub repo to search for that line of code, to then look at the git blame to see, well, what's changed, who made a change. And then you might jump into your IDE to actually make a code change. If that's not enough to figure out, okay, did this actually fix the error? You might need to start adding some logging, then deploy to dev or staging, look at the logs output, and rinse and repeat. It's kind of a very cyclical thing. At each step of the way, you're jumping into a different tool, and those tools don't really connect the dots. You end up having to go from the error tracking point solution into GitHub to re-find the context where you're at, and then again in your IDE, and then again in your logs. You may be also be using New Relic for that debugging portion as well, and the same thing applies. You still go from the error tracking point solution to New Relic. If you're using logs and context with New Relic, hopefully that saves some of that context switching, but really our goal is to remove all of it. So you can go directly from knowing about a new error that's occurred as a result of a push of new software to triaging and debugging all within scope without having to change any context all the way to your IDE. So that's what I'm going to talk about today. And yeah, I think I've got a repeat here. There we go. So New Relic Errors Inbox, in a nutshell, it is a single place to view and triage the errors across your applications and services that your team cares about. So you may be monitoring a ton of different entities in New Relic today, but your team is responsible for maybe a handful of those. And instead of having to jump between all of the different services and applications individually and looking at errors to figure out like what's new, Errors Inbox brings them all into a single UI and that you can configure to see basically what you want to see. And it gives you all of the triaging information all in a single place, and is a very simplified, streamlined UI that I'll show off here in a minute. We give you proactive notifications. So as soon as you do push to staging, and there's a new error detected, you're going to get a Slack notification with that error message right in a Slack channel of your choosing. And from there, you can have a one-click link directly into Errors Inbox, where you can then start going through the debug process. We provide a bunch of data around that error, and we provide the analysis of that data as well. So you're not stuck hunting through thousands of occurrences of a single error to figure out what's different, what's in common. We pull all of that together and provide you with rich error profiles. And I'll give some examples of how that can be quite useful in the demo. And then lastly, we provide a cross-team collaboration capability. So you're usually working errors in a team. You might be the one who identified the error. Maybe you saw the Slack notification, you jumped in, but you see that someone else on your team recently made a push to staging that touches that part of the code. So you might want to flag that person or assign the issue to them to have them work on it, or have collaboration, or even just use it for documenting the resolution, so that if the error were to come back later again, there's a regression, you have that documentation there in the context. You don't have to go and think about, this error seems really familiar. When did we see this? And then you have to start searching for your commit history to try to figure that out. We provide all of that in a single context. So you may be asking, if you're very familiar with New Relic Errors prior to Errors Inbox, what's the difference? So really, the data is the same. We're not collecting any sort of new data. We're taking existing error data and we're making it easier to group them and then triage and debug them and collaborate around those. So prior to Errors Inbox, you might have something breaks. You're going to get an alert if there was an alert threshold crossed, but sometimes that doesn't always happen. Sometimes you may have a set of errors that doesn't quite reach that 1 or 2% threshold, but it's still impacting maybe hundreds of users. So that sometimes that error goes unnoticed, or you're kind of waiting for the customer to come to you and say, hey, I was trying to check out my cart and it didn't work. I ran into an error. And sometimes customers aren't going to come to you. They may just get frustrated and go away. So then that leaves you kind of in the dark about certain errors that just aren't caught unless you're really digging through the data. And honestly, developers, we just don't have time to always dig through the data when we're not sure that anything is even there of value to look at. So that's the really big issue that we're trying to solve here with Errors Inbox. So moving to Errors Inbox, the flow really is you release your code to staging, dev or staging, or different environments prior to prod. Hopefully you have some smoke tests or integration tests that will trigger some of those errors. Maybe you're using synthetic testing to go through kind of key workflows, and those can help you catch those errors faster. If an error is thrown and it's a new error, we will detect it, we'll group it, we'll start tracking it, and you'll get a notification right in your Slack channel of choice. So you'll be able to know right away when you made a release. You can check that Slack channel. You can then go see what the error is and fix it quickly before you get it pushed to prod. No users were impacted in doing so. So it's kind of a more proactive way of looking at errors versus the reactive way that you would maybe do before with error alerts. Both are very useful. I think it's important to have those error threshold alerts, but this is an additional tool that kind of helps you level up your error game. So let's talk a little bit about the architecture and how our system works. So I said that we're not collecting any new data. We're looking at existing error data, but we needed to build a system that intelligently groups those error occurrences together so that we can track them, so that you're not digging through thousands of errors. We want to be able to figure out all of the occurrences that are similar and likely to be from the same cause, and then start tracking information on that and allow you to have metadata stored with that. So essentially, the raw error data comes in, and today we support APM, browser, mobile, and serverless functions. So almost anything you can throw at us error-wise, we're ingesting and analyzing through our grouper service. That grouper service then essentially runs through a set of rules that looks for unique identifiers that might mess up the grouping mechanism. So we're going to look for things like UUIDs, hex values, email addresses, AWS regions, things of those natures that might be part of your error message that makes it difficult to group. Once we identify those, we normalize it out, and the error grouper outputs a fingerprint. So every fingerprint that's generated is equates to an error group. And an error group is then created and stored in an additional database as well as NRDB, different data for each, depending on the databases behind the scenes. We're storing metadata like metrics around occurrences. We're storing those discussion threads, which I'll show off, as well as a number of other pieces of data. And those are stored long-term. So even if your raw error events are aged out after, say, 8 days, you'll still be able to see the basic information about that error and see the history around it as well. So if your team rallied on an error, had collaborated, fixed it, and maybe you wrote the root cause of it along with the metadata of that error group, you'll still be able to see that even long after your raw error data is gone. At the bottom here, you'll see that this also pushes off to our notification system. Today we support Slack. We'll have Teams coming soon and additional integrations coming soon. I'll show you what that looks like as well. And then that also feeds into our NerdGraph API, which powers our UI. So I can start jumping in a second. But I also want to give a little bit of a teaser for CodeStream. CodeStream, you might have heard, is a startup that we had acquired. It really brings the collaborative experience into your IDE. So if you're using things like Visual Studio Code, IntelliJ, et cetera, there's a plethora of IDEs supported. You'll be able to do things like code reviews, get reviews on codes prior to you committing them into the repo, as well as managing Jira tickets. But we've also integrated our errors experience with CodeStream. So you can basically go from a stack trace in errors inbox in New Relic 1 with a single click, open up that error in your IDE locally, and it will automatically find the exact files, version, et cetera, match it up with your local IDE. So you don't have to go copy the stack trace, go to GitHub or and look for the git blame to figure out which version this might be on, what commit might be in question, and then go pull that up locally on your IDE to then make changes to your code. That's a lot of steps that we automated into a button. So it's kind of a really fancy, simple looking button that does a lot behind the scenes. So that's pretty cool. I think there's another CodeStream session that I highly recommend checking out to go very deep into that topic as well. So just wanted to throw that out there. So I'm going to jump into demo quick. The full screen here. Oops. It's this one here. Okay, perfect. So this is errors inbox. Here you're basically going to, and you can basically reach it by going to the top nav here, and you'll see errors inbox there. And first thing you'll see is workload. So there's this drop-down selector where you can select a workload. If you're not familiar with workloads, workloads are a way for you to logically group a bunch of services that your team cares about. So in this case, we have this Acme Telco e-commerce site. And if I view workload here, I can go see what is inside this workload. So you see here there are 8 APM services. There are 16 hosts. There's some ELB load balancers. There's a synthetic monitor, some databases, Lambda functions, EBS volumes, all kinds of stuff here. So this gives you a bird's eye view of everything related to the application that your team is responsible for or cares about, or maybe adjacent to your teams if you just want to have visibility into that. They're very easy to set up. If you just click this manage entries, or sorry, manage entities, you can either manually select and add entities of any type into a workload, or you can do it via rules. So you can do things like if it has a telco in the name, or if it has a tag, particular tag, if you're using tagging, you can use that, or if it's in a certain account, there's a lot of flexibility here. So anytime any of these rules are matched, it will automatically pull that entity into the workload. So if you create a new service that matches these rules, it will automatically be included there. And so Errors Inbox uses workloads to basically understand like what are all of the applications that you want to see in a single inbox. And you'll see here there are 63 error groups in the last 24 hours, and I can click this to go back to the Errors Inbox here. So you may want to have a workload for each environment. So you might want to have one for staging and one for prod, for example. And here you're going to see basically the list of all of the error groups that we've detected over the last, the default is 24 hours, but you can go to 6 months and beyond. Again, we're storing this long-term, so you can see very quickly long-term trends for these errors. You'll see that if you look closely at the message, you'll see like this GUID here. That means that we've identified that the error message contains a GUID. We're ignoring that as part of the fingerprinting process, and anything that matches this pattern or outputs the same fingerprint will be included in this error group. And in the last 24 hours, there were about 7,000 occurrences. And you'll be able to see the sparkline here, so you can see, what does that actually look like over the last 24 hours. That can help you understand, for example, if you just made a push an hour ago and you're seeing this basically look the same over the last 24-hour periods, this has already been happening. You may not be as concerned about that. So you might want to just kind of scan down and look to see if any of these spark lines look like they're newly occurred or anomalous over this time period. Like maybe there was something pushed here and there was kind of a big spike in errors over this period of time. So you might want to look into that one. This looks like a timeout. So this can give you a very quick glance into all the errors, and there are 60. So it's very easy to just scan down, look at all 60. And if you decide like, okay, this error is happening all the time, it's not actually a big problem because it's just the coupon is not found. It means the user put in an invalid coupon ID. I don't care about that. So I might go in and just click ignore. And that's just going to hide it from the view. The data is still there. If you want to go back and see that ignored message, you can do that. And then you can go back and unignore it if you want to do so. So I'll do that. If you've gone and fixed the error, you can mark it as resolved as well. And one thing to note is that if you mark something as resolved and it's still happening, we're going to automatically unresolve that error group because we've detected that it's a regression. So keep that in mind when you're using that resolution. If it hasn't gone into prod yet, you might want to wait to resolve that until it's actually pushed into prod, for example. And you can also assign errors to people on your team or yourself. So if you wanted to assign to, if I want to assign this to myself and say, all right, I'm going to work on this later, I'll just assign to me. Perfect. And then you can also filter by errors assigned to you as well. So if I just filter assigned to me, there's a lot of people that have been assigned in this group. So, then I can just see those ones that that matter to me here. So that's a quick way to do that. Let me jump into one of these errors here to kind of see what's going on here. I think this one is a good one to jump into. So if you've dealt with errors in New Relic, this will be somewhat familiar, although there's some new stuff that's going on here. On the left-hand side, this is kind of the error group metadata. So you'll see, again, those occurrences over time. You'll see the first scene and last scene, which can kind of help you narrow down when, if this is still happening or when this first started happening. It can kind of help you narrow down what might have caused that if there was a change around that time. You'll see some key attributes here. In this case, it's the transaction name. It's not super interesting for this. It looks like this web transaction JSP oops.jsp was responsible for 100% of the errors that I'm looking at here. And this is a group of 468 over this time period. So there are a lot of stack traces that I could jump through. On each error occurrence, you'll have, of course, the stack trace. You'll have the logs in context. So if you're using our logging product, you'll see the full logs that go along with this error, which can really help you narrow down like what happened right before this. That might help you identify where in the code you might want to look. And then there's all these attributes. So some of these are automatically generated, and some of these are custom generated attributes here. So you can see there's a potential username, etc. So one of the things that's challenging typically about looking at all these attributes is that there are hundreds of occurrences. And if you want to know what's in common, previously you would need to jump through and start scanning to see what's different here. Now we have attribute analysis. So this basically gives you a heat map of each of the attributes and their values, and the commonalities over this grouping of error occurrences. So we're analyzing the 468 errors. And if we want to look at something like commit, you can send a commit SHA, which can tell us, the version that this is impacting. I can see that this is 55% of these are happening on this commit SHA here. So I might want to look at that commit to figure out what changed in that version of the software that may be firing this error off. So this can kind of help you figure out what versions are impacted. If you are sending user information through attributes, you'll also be able to see which users are impacted here. So a lot of them have no value, but there are some of these that have user IDs that I might want to reach out to see, get some feedback, or tell them if I fixed it. I might want to reach out and tell them, hey, we fixed this error for you. We also have a activity feed here, and this tells you who made changes to the error and the status changes that happened. So you can see that this person has assigned this error to me. Any other changes here, if I mark it as resolved, that will show up in here as well. And then discussions. So this is all that collaboration that I talked about here. So here you can have rich, multi-threaded conversations with markdown support as well. So that allows you to either collaborate with your team on these errors, ask them questions, or use this to document things like root cause. Or if you want to just share some links to Jira tickets, for example, it's another way to do that. You can see people have done that here. So that's kind of an overview of Errors Inbox. I want to jump and show one other way to use Errors Inbox. But before I do that, I'll show you the notifications. So I had mentioned Slack integration. So here I don't have permissions here, but on your Error Inbox, you'll have this notification settings. And here you can basically set up Slack integration. Once you do so, you will see that you can choose a channel of your choosing. So each inbox can go to a different Slack channel. So if you have a staging, you might want to send that to staging errors, or prod, you want to go to prod errors. And basically every time a new error group is seen, or if an error group is moved from resolved to unresolved automatically, i.e. we discovered a regression, it will send a notification to that Slack channel with this error information here, basically what you're seeing here, and a direct link to open up the stack trace in a single click. So that's quite handy. So I mentioned here we use workloads to organize your inboxes. If you're just looking for a quick access to errors for a single service, maybe you have a monolith or whatever, you can do so through APM. So if you jump into an APM service, you'll also see this triage menu where there's an errors inbox selector here. So if you go here, you do not have to set anything up. Of course, this doesn't have any errors. It's perfect software. I should choose something that has some errors, probably. Let's see here. Here's one with errors. Perfect. So I'll go into this errors inbox, and it is the same interface, but I didn't have to create a workload. So if you're just looking for errors for that particular APM service, you'll have access to that here. It has all of the same functionality that you get in the global errors inbox, as well as a link to that, except for the Slack integration. Everything else works out of the box, though, with no setup. So super easy to use, and yeah, really good way to just try it out. This will also be coming to browser and mobile very soon. So when you're in a browser application, you'll also have the same menu that'll be showing up very soon. Okay. Let me just jump back to my slides here. I just wanted to see if there's any questions that I can quickly answer. How we're doing on time. Let me jump back, stop sharing my screen, and see if we have any questions here. If not, I can talk a little bit more about some best practices as well. Please write your questions in the chat. Yeah, so some of the things where we see this really useful is as I said, when you're releasing software to staging, it's really great to either just jump into Errors inbox into that staging workload, or the Slack channel if you've set up those integrations. And you can essentially very quickly see if there are any new or regressed errors that are happening there. That's going to help you catch more errors than anything, honestly, especially if you have good testing around that. You're gonna very, very quickly identify errors. You're going to know the context because you just made that change. So you know something changed in the software like in the last 5 minutes. That will help you probably figure out what the root cause of it is very, very quickly, rather than waiting until it gets into prod, triggering a error rate alert, then trying to figure out, well, which one of the pushes made this change. So that's one thing we see teams extremely successful on. I'd also just suggest just hop into your errors inbox to some of your prod applications and just have a look. Everyone's usually surprised. They find errors that they had no idea that were actually happening. They're kind of buried. But by having this grouping to kind of clean up the data for you automatically, you can very quickly have a sense for what's going on, and you might spot something that was just kind of under the radar that you might want to prioritize and triage to work on. Another thing in terms of best practices is if the grouping is not working well for you, we essentially have a bunch of rules that are doing a best effort on identifying these unique identifiers. Sometimes it's not perfect. There's always edge cases. And in those cases, you may want to modify your error messages to remove those things. So sometimes I'll see an error message with like the whole SQL statement as part of the error message. Better practice would be to have a more generic error message that kind of identifies what the main issue is. And then instead of putting the SQL statement in the error message, put it into a custom attribute. That will help you get better analysis of what's different across these errors as well. So instead of having 100 different errors with slightly different SQL statements, all showing up as different error groups, alerting you every time that happens, you'll have them all grouped together, and then you can go look at the attribute analysis to figure out what percentage is this particular query, and that can help you narrow down where to start focusing your efforts in terms of removing resolving some of those errors. Another thing is really integrating with the way your team works. So every team kind of works a little bit differently. Some teams are very very aggressive with like error habits, and they'll strive to have a inbox 0. They don't want to have any errors in their inbox. That's fantastic. Not everybody's like that. It's totally fine not to be like that. And the system is designed to kind of work with varying types of team workflows. So if you're not an inbox 0 person, it's very easy to still just kind of look at the last 24 hours or 6 hours or whatever. And if you hop in daily, it's really easy to just scan through that list. Maybe there's 30 or 60 errors to very quickly scan through, and you'll be able to see very quickly if something looks new or is spiking or is anomalous looking, that might not be being caught by the alerts that you already have in place. So generally, that's a really good practice. Having the errors go to a Slack channel also makes this pretty easy, because you're only going to see a stream of new or regressed errors. So just hopping into that Slack channel, we do that in our team pretty frequently, where we'll hop into our Slack channel, look over the last 24 hours, and we can see if anything looks suspect. And we do our collaboration in Slack too. I see a lot of teams do that, where you may want to just have a thread off of the notification in Slack itself, and then you might create a Jira ticket, and you want to have Jira integrated with the error groups. Good news is we will have Jira released very soon in the coming couple weeks. You'll see Jira integration show up. So with Jira integration on every error group, there'll be a button that allows you to create a Jira ticket off of that error group. So if you identify an error group that, hey, our team should probably look into this, we want to get it into the backlog, with 2 clicks, you can have a ticket created that has the full error details along with links into New Relic for that full context. So there's no kind of copying and pasting, and again, no context switching in doing that triaging workflow. So that's something that's coming soon that we're super excited about. Cool. Any other questions? What else is coming to Errors Inbox? So Jira support, team support I mentioned earlier. So not only do we support Slack, but Teams will be coming. We have a lot on our roadmap. We're building out a lot of new interesting capabilities. So definitely stay tuned to see what's coming. I mentioned a few things already, like the scoped Errors Inbox inside APM is coming to mobile and browser. And we'll also have some interesting versioning capabilities. So today you can actually send your version info along with your applications. We have this doc in our docs now. So in APM, if you send an environment variable that's tags or release or both, we will automatically attach that data to transactions and errors. And that allows you to see all the commit SHAs that are or release tags that are impacted by an error, and that's going to allow us to build out new functionality around that data. So later this month or next month, you'll start seeing the ability to quick filter your inbox, so you can just show new or resurfaced errors impacting the most recent version that you just pushed out. As well as being able to resolve an error for a specific version. So if you fix the error, but it's not quite in prod yet, you can just say, this has been fixed in this version. And and then we won't auto unresolve it unless that's happening in that version or later. So we're kind of doing the version tracking on our side to make sure that we're intelligently doing that. So you're not seeing your error groups flopping between unresolved and resolved because it's still happening in some version that's some user is still on. Yeah, Scott posted a link here that has a lot more details about error tracking. Definitely recommend checking that out. Check out our docs. There's more details there. And yeah, definitely want to see everyone try it out. Right now, Errors Inbox is free for everyone to use. Even basic users have access to Errors Inbox until January 12th. So there's no reason not to try it. You don't have to do anything to set it up. Again, if you just go into APM, you can click on Errors Inbox, and you'll start seeing the inbox filled in with all your errors automatically, retroactively even. Super easy to use. Would love to get your feedback. As you do try it out, if you have feedback or wish lists, we want to hear those as well. So there's a little feedback icon on the top right-hand side of NR1. If you use that on the screen you're on, we get all of that context sent to us. So if you're seeing like a particularly poor grouping because there's a weirdly formatted date time or something like that, we want to see those because we're continually improving our grouping rules to cover all those edge cases. So definitely shoot us your feedback. If there's things you want to see in Errors Inbox, let us know. Yeah, great. Thanks, everyone. Glad to present, and enjoy the rest of Nerd Days. Bye.